Another intense medieval Ingmar Bergman movie. This isn't The Seventh Seal, but it's quite a bit like it. It's Virgin Spring from 1960. Here's why I think this movie is great, coming up next. Coming just 3 years after The Seventh Seal in 1960, Virgin Spring stars Max von Sydow again, as was the case in The Seventh Seal, and here another movie set in the distant medieval past. Now, be warned, there are spoilers in this video because it's impossible to talk about the movie without just revealing what's going to happen. And I would really recommend going into it without knowing anything. So don't read summaries about this. If you haven't seen it, just go watch the movie right now and come back to the video. And this is the rare Bergman movie. In fact, offhand, I can't think of another one. Not a single one that has violence in it. This one features at least two very violent and I think very disturbing scenes. So be warned, even though this is a 1960s black and white movie, during a time of possible censorship, you're still getting to see things I think are quite disturbing. Now, obviously, the movie's plot is a tale of two plots, really. It's two halves of a movie. In the first half, a virgin woman goes out to a church, as her father and mother tell her to. Her father and mother own a farm, and then she goes out into the deep, dark forest and encounters men, goat herds, who end up raping her and killing her. Second half of the movie shows these goat herds coming to the farm and getting rest and solace there. So really you have a quest narrative or a journey outward in the first half of the movie, and then you have the sort of strangers come to town story in the second half of the movie, in which the father, of course, gets revenge for his daughter. The movie takes place on Good Friday. It combines the Christian world with the pagan or non-Christian world during this time in Sweden, and both of those elements are pretty potent and powerful in the movie. The people of the farmstead, the father and the mother, for example, believe strongly in Jesus Christ, and you see them pray several times. Communion is mentioned. Of course, the Virgin is going to the church in this movie.
Gör mig du värdig att undfå kroppens bröd, bevara min själ från en värdig död.
But then again, this movie opens with a pregnant woman working at the farmstead praying to Odin to come. We don't really know what she means until the middle to the end of the movie, but she's going to factor in and be a point of contrast with the Virgin. But also, I think they're combined together as two young women who are preyed upon by all kinds of elements in the world, including rapacious young men like the goat herds in the movie. Praying is featured throughout the movie, probably at least 5 times. In the beginning, the woman starts a fire, ignites a fire that you'll see throughout the movie in the homestead as she prays to Odin. But most of the other prayers are to the Christian God. And there's a very memorable prayer at the end of the movie delivered by the father who's been affected Job-like by all the events in the movie, and he's done wrong, or he's harmed other people, and so he prays for justice, and he's uncertain about why things have happened, but he also prays for forgiveness.
Du ser det. Gud, du ser det. Det oskyldiga barnets död och min hämnd. Du tillät det.
That's in contrast, that powerful ending to me to the beginnings of the movie, where the family is static and staid, and there's a sort of bland, perhaps, prayer. Ordinary, of course, because it's a family mealtime. Compared with that sort of cry for justice at the end of the movie, I really appreciate where this movie is going and the trajectory of it and how Bergman handles that. The movie, of course, is announcing a legend, the founding of a church, and the miracle. And again, Bergman didn't deal with miracles very much, except for, say, Fanny and Alexander. You don't see too many mystical or strange or unexplained elements in his movies, but here you've got one, because, of course, this is based on medieval ballad and legend, the founding of a church. Now, I've read a lot of material about this movie, in which people claim to read it in an atheistic way, which may make sense, but I do think this movie, like The Seventh Seal does, sort of blends it together. So the atheistic outcry about God doesn't really exist. Of course, he doesn't look out for anybody, and these people are ideologues, and they don't understand what they believe. But also, I think this movie quite a bit honors the Christianity of the people in it and the founding of the church as a legend. So it's a pretty interesting movie to see in a number of different ways. Perhaps from the Bergmanian perspective, which I think is a blend of Christianity and atheism, but typical Bergmanian humanism here in caring for basically everyone in the movie except for the goat herds. I want to mention as well, this movie focuses, and I didn't remember it until rewatching it, on the boy who is part of the goat herds. The goat herds are a threesome, 2 men and a young boy. And later on, Bergman is going to develop all kinds of themes about boyhood, childhood trauma, what a boy sees and how that sort of is reflected in the art later created, perhaps created by the boy. And I think Bergman is focusing, when he brings up boys, on his own sort of psychobiography. If you look at his movies in his canon, like The Silence or the beginning of Persona, or very certainly Fanny and Alexander, the focus on boys who have some imaginary world, but they're traumatized by some event or events in their lives. In this movie, dead in the middle of it, right smack in the middle of it. In fact, look at the timestamp, 45 minutes in to a 90-minute movie. The boy among the goat herds is deeply traumatized by what the 2 men have done to the virgin. And he stares at them, and just look at his reaction. And then, of course, he can't handle himself later in the movie. As we get towards the end of the movie, of course, the farmer gets revenge on the 3 males, but he takes it out on the boy as well, who we know is quasi-innocent, or at least didn't participate in the rape. And the farmer getting revenge on the boy definitely is a murder, in most people's opinion, including mine, and that's what the father is asking for forgiveness for. So you see in the end the harshness of this older, staid Christian male taking it out on the young man, or the boy in this movie, a theme that would come up, as I said, in Fanny and Alexander. So look at these two movies. They don't seem to go together, perhaps, but I think they do quite effectively for Bergman. Do prayers have any effect? Maybe the miracle in the end is just happenstance, the water flowing out from the Virgin. Who knows? How do you read this movie? I'd love to hear from a variety of people. How do you interpret this movie? Is it taking Christianity seriously of these characters, or is it making fun of them, mocking them, showing that God doesn't exist? Another question I have is, who is that really creepy old man in the forest who confronts the pregnant woman? She seems to think it's a god, or maybe Odin, who she's prayed to at the beginning of the movie. Is this just a random guy, or just the sign of creepy males in the forest, and watch out for these kinds of horrible barbarians? Very interesting to think about what Bergman is doing with that character as well. I think Bergman is a great fantasist, and he knows it, and he likes to talk about theater and stagecraft in his movies. I think Bergman would be a great fairy tale writer, or writer of folklore, if he were to have lived 300 years or more earlier than this. As is, he didn't make very many movies that have fairy tale or folktale elements. The Hour of the Wolf is a pretty good movie, and Seventh Seal, of course. So this movie, Virgin Springs, sort of is like those other movies, and I recommend, if you like Seventh Seal, this movie, or watch The Seventh Seal, or The Hour of the Wolf. I think they all sort of go together pretty well. What do you think of this? What do you think of this movie? Let us know in the comments, and please subscribe to the channel for more great content. Thank you. Have a great day.